Before we get into the latest Dallas Cowboys news from NFL owners meeting, Marshall Green, a Giants Now host here at Chat Sports, has thrown down the gauntlet for the month of April. He thinks he's going to get more subscribers than us. Let's prove him wrong and start things off hot. Hit that sub button so we can win and you get more free Cowboys YouTube videos. Let's start with draft talk and what Brian Schottenheimer had to say about the Cowboys' round one plans. He laid out what I think can mostly be viewed as not just his philosophy, but I think really the overall Cowboys draft philosophy here as we get set up for 2025. Long quote incoming, so I'll kind of skip some parts of it. But since the starting point would be best player available, you're looking for game changers when you're at 12. We don't want to pick at 12 ever again, but you're looking for guys who influence the game. How do you do that? You rush the QB, you get sacks, strip sacks, fumbles, whatever it is. You score touchdowns. I look at it this way. You build it from the outside in. So you've got corners and wide receivers. They get isolated one-on-one. Pass rushers, tackles, they get isolated one-on-one. Then obviously the QB spot. That's usually the way I look at it. When you're building a roster, you build it from the outside in based on guys who get isolated a lot, because when you're isolated and you can't help, it's a pretty daunting task. Now, outside in was kind of the early morning big key phrase that got picked up by everybody out there. But what Schottenheimer has really just done here is named the Money 5 positions. The 5 spots that in general end up getting the biggest contracts, everything else, that have some of the biggest impact, and where a lot of teams have more value from a positional perspective. That's quarterback, that's wide receiver, that's offensive tackle, that's edge rusher, and that is corner. And when you look at what the Cowboys have done since Will McClay took really control of the draft, so to speak, they usually look at the Money 5 spots. Tyler Guyton. Mike Smith was an interior guy. Tyler Smith, Micah Parsons, guard, tackle, linebacker, edge. You can kind of cheat and spin it however you want to, I guess. CeeDee Lamb, Leighton Vander Esch, and Ezekiel Elliott were the main outliers there. Taco Charlton, Byron Jones. You can look since 2017, and from a Money 5 perspective, if we're counting Micah as an edge and Tyler Smith as an offensive tackle, which kind of is cheating, I think, Cowboys typically tend to target the Money 5 spots, especially early on. So with that in mind, I think there's 8 notable names who may or may not be there, but like Abdul Carter's not going to be there, Travis Hunter's not going to be there, come on, that I think stand out. Tetairoa McMillan, Matthew Golden. You can mix in Emeka Egbuka, Luther Burden if you want. Will Campbell, Armand Membu are kind of viewed as the top offensive tackle prospects. Couple edge options. Jalen Walker's a hybrid. Micah Williams, I think the Cowboys like. Mike Green and Will Johnson. Now, I don't think all 8 of those guys are there for you, but I think at least 2 or 3 of them are, and that might be a good kind of getting your foot wet just now for the draft. Maybe start with some of those guys. So not name, but position. What position do you think the Cowboys will draft in round 1? Let me know in the comments section, the pinned comment of today's video. The ad comes here on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Head down there and go vote. Let's move to the explosive wide receiver side. Stephen Jones claimed he liked the Cowboys wide receiver room, but he wants a quote-unquote explosive number 2. Here's what Stephen said. I like our room, but at the same time, losing Brandon Cooks in free agency, we're still open to looking at a really explosive number 2 that could upgrade us. But as I said, I like our room. We have players we currently have, and we like our guys, essentially. Look, we can read between the lines here with Stephen. We've probably gotten good at it over the years. He's being nice to the guys on the roster. He said he had a lot of nice things to say about Turpin and Mingo and Tolbert, etc. But wide receiver is very clearly a target for Dallas. Schottenheimer kind of mentioned it. And explosive can really mean different things in the end. Speed, vertical speed, explosive ability, sideline to sideline speed, agility, quickness, be explosive in that area. Big plays, explosive plays, right? Which often goes hand in hand with speed. After the catch, you can make guys miss and create explosive plays. I tend to view it from a big play perspective. But you can apply the explosive tag to a couple different receivers in this year's class. And I think the 2 we mentioned previously, T-Mac and Matthew Golden, those guys can count there. McMillan was a big play machine for Arizona. How many times was he making downfield catches, big plays, making guys miss after the catch? He was certainly explosive. Matthew Golden had 17 yards per catch. That's explosive, and he's fast. He's super fast. Emeka Egbuka, I wouldn't really consider his game explosive. I think that's more smooth. He's a good run blocker. Luther Burden is explosive after the catch, but seems like the NFL is just not as high on him. So of the big four, so to speak, at wide receiver, let's say they're all there at 12 and you want to go with a wide receiver. Who are you picking? TM for Tetairoa McMillan, MG for Matthew Golden, EE for Emeka Egbuka, or LB for Luther Burden? Let's move now to Micah Parsons, kind of getting more updates coming out of this here. Brian Schottenheimer is hopeful that Micah Parsons will be present and not hold out or even skip the voluntary stuff without a deal, which is rapidly approaching. We are a week away from off-season workouts getting going for the Cowboys. Here's what Schotty had to say. I feel very comfortable. Micah said he's going to be around. I think that he wants to be. I think we're all very comfortable with that. And at the end of the day, he's a great player. I think he's just getting started, to be honest with you. I have no question in my mind that he'll be around. Regardless of when the deal ends up getting done, I think it does get done. This is the ideal outcome. That in some capacity, Micah Parsons does step up as leader. Micah says he wants to. And to an extent, it kind of feels like the Cowboys are kind of throwing that back at him of like, okay, are you going to be there? Because he hasn't done the voluntary stuff in the past. You have a new DC. You have a new head coach. You've lost some key veteran leaders in DeMarcus Lawrence and Jordan Lewis, maybe one of whom you're glad is gone if you're Micah. I want him there. If it's kind of hard, I think, to say you want to be the leader and not be there for everything you can be. I think it just adds an unnecessary level of challenge. Even if the player doesn't need it, I do think the leader probably needs it. So the key dates to monitor here. April 7th is when voluntary workouts start. Those are voluntary. It is not a holdout if Micah Parsons is not there. But that's kind of your next linchpin date. Does Micah Parsons show up for voluntary workouts if there is not a new deal? And then he gets to May with the OTAs and June with the minicamp, which start to become more mandatory. Now, the latest of where we sit with the Micah Parsons contract negotiations are this. And this is eventually kind of fully leaked out, so I'm not worried about pissing people off when I say it. The Jones boys and Micah Parsons have had contract talks. They have exchanged offers, but they have not had those talks with the agent. And until you have the talks with the agent, when you got Mike out there praising the agent on social media, then have you really had the contract talks? It kind of borders on the chicken or the egg to an extent. Until the Jones boys and David Malgetta, Micah's call him a super agent, he's got a pretty good track record of getting big-time money, then there's not going to be a deal. And we can put blame on the agent, too, for this, by the way, because I think if Micah didn't have an agent, this deal would have been done already. But you also hire David Malgetta to get you the best deal possible. Now, how much of this is the agent being upset the Cowboys kind of went around him? How much is the agent right to be upset that the Cowboys didn't go through the normal channels and there's maybe a bit of a peeing contest? It's a nicer way of saying it going on right now. I'm honestly not sure. I don't think this deal was a hard one to get done. But at some point, you're going to have to work with the agent on the contract. So if you don't do that, then it's not black and white with the blame. It's a little bit of the gray side. Now, we've got the NFL draft hats for the Cowboys available for you guys over on Fanatics. Includes the America's Team pin, by the way. A couple of different styles and fits. There's the fitted, the snapback, everything else in there. A slightly darker black and a black as well, if you guys like Archer. Chatsports.com/Cowboys draft has the hats and the hoodie, by the way. Links in the comments section and the description of today's show. It's chatsports.com/Cowboys draft. There'll also be a clickable link over there in the corner for you. Let's talk injury updates here. Stephen Jones with not surprising, but not good injury updates either on DeMarvion Overshown and Trevon Diggs, saying we don't know when we will get these players back. They have significant injuries. There's a good chance that they may not start for us when the season starts. They may not be available. Look, both guys probably aren't going to be ready for week one, and that sucks. But with the injuries they're coming off of, the timing of them, I think we're going to have to be patient here. Doesn't mean they won't play at all in 2025. But pup lists, missing the first 6 weeks, NFL, whatever it is, like that tracks is like a logical time frame in the end. So who returns first? Spend some more time on the position groups here too. TD for Trevon Diggs, DO for DeMarvion Overshown. Let me know in the comments of today's show. As it sits right now, if you don't have Trevon Diggs out there, it's Deron Bland, Izzy Mukwanu at the nickel, and Kaiir Elam and Kalen Carson fighting on the outside. Yeah, there's a reason why I keep mentioning corner as a spot I'd like to address. Linebacker, you're probably a little bit more okay. You did trade for Kenneth Murray. You have Maurice Leafau. Don't worry too much about the weak side, middle, strong. They do a lot of two linebacker sets. Sanborn, I think, is a good player. Damone Clark is on the roster as well. But I think adding a day 3 pick at linebacker and maybe a premium pick at corner certainly makes sense.